హలో అండి, అందరికీ నమస్కారం. సో నా పేరు అనిల్ బొద్దిరెడ్డి, అమెరికన్ తెలుగు అసోసియేషన్ బోర్డ్ ఆఫ్ ట్రస్టీ. సో ఈ రోజు మనము రీసెంట్ గా ప్రెసిడెంట్ గారు ఇచ్చిన ట్రంప్ ఆర్డర్ మీద, ఇమిగ్రేషన్ చేంజెస్ మీద మాట్లాడడానికి వెబినార్ పెట్టడం జరిగింది. సో ఈ రోజు మనతో పాటు మనకు గెస్ట్ గా ఉమా మంత్రవాడి గారు ఉన్నారు. సో తన గురించి చెప్పాలంటే తను హ్యూస్టన్ టెక్సాస్ లో మీన్స్ ఎప్పటి నుంచో ఉంటున్నారు. అక్కడే తన జేడీ కూడా యూనివర్సిటీ ఆఫ్ హ్యూస్టన్ నుంచి కంప్లీట్ చేసి దాని తర్వాత లా ప్రాక్టీస్ అండ్ ఇమిగ్రేషన్ లాస్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉన్నది తనకు. అండ్ ఉమా గారు అలాగే ఒక రేడియో షో కూడా చేస్తూ ఉంటారు ఈ ఇమిగ్రేషన్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ మీద. యూజువల్ గా రేడియో షో వచ్చేసి హమ్ తుమ్ రేడియో అని చెప్పేసి ఒక రేడియోలో షేర్ చేస్తుంటారు. ఈ రోజు సో మన యూనో మన క్వశ్చన్స్ కొరకు మీకున్న డౌట్స్ కానీ, మీకున్న క్వశ్చన్స్ కానీ యూట్యూబ్ ఛానల్లో కానీ, ఫేస్బుక్ ఛానల్లో కానీ మీరు పోస్ట్ చేస్తే ఆ క్వశ్చన్స్ అన్ని మేము రీడ్ చేసి సో తన ద్వారా మనం ఆన్సర్స్ తెప్పించుకునే ప్రయత్నం చేద్దాం. సో వెల్కమ్ అండి ఉమా గారు.
Thank you so much. Namaste, Anil Garu and Parmesh Garu, and to the entire executive board of ATA, and also to the trustees of ATA for organizing this in such a short time. మీ అందరికీ నా కృతజ్ఞతలు. And this is a very burning and important issue, and it affects Indians particularly, and especially మన తెలుగు వాళ్ళు. So why is it affecting only Indians more so than other people or to Telugu people? Another, then I'll come and speak more in detail on it. To start with, President Trump passed a proclamation or an executive order on June 22nd, and this executive order was banning or restricting certain non-immigrant visa holders, particularly H-1Bs, H-4 visas, L-1 visas, L-2 visas, and certain categories of J-1 visas. And the ban began on June the 24th, and it is extended until December 31st, 2020. And previously, President Trump had passed another executive order that was passed on April 23rd, 2020. And that executive order was banning certain lawful permanent residents from coming into the country. And what he did was he included that executive order again into this one so that it can be extended until December 31st, 2020, because that executive order was expiring on June 22nd. So he combined two executive orders in this. But who are particularly outside the United States trying to get a visa, or people who may have traveled on a brief visit to India, either to visit a family member who's sick or gone to get a stamping, and due to COVID, the US consulates in India are shut
Okay, you can go live again. Okay.
ఉమా గారు మీరు మాట్లాడొచ్చు.
Continuing, Anil Garu, is this executive order is supposed to sunset on December 31st, 2020. However, the president has also stated in the executive order that they will be reviewing this executive order in 30 to 60 days in intervals. And if they determine something has to be changed or reviewed or extended or incorporated, they're going to come back and make additions or amendments to the executive order. And we don't know if they'll continue up to December 31st or that will be renewed something further. So that is the gist of it. Does this rule invite further rulemaking? That is something, very alarming. And I want section 5 of the executive order is telling that the president has asked the Department of State, Department of Labor, Department of Homeland Security to further investigate about the H1s and see if they may want to place further restrictions on the definition called as specialty occupation, what should be included or excluded from the specialty occupation. And also, there are a lot of people who are on H1s, Anil Garu, for example, they come to the 6 years. Now, when they come to that 6 years, if they have a perm and an I-140 approved, they can get an additional 3 years indefinitely until their green card is approved. So what the president has asked the Department of Labor, Homeland Security is to investigate to see if they want to revisit the AC-21 Act and if they should take away that benefit from people because they feel that the H1s are remaining here indefinitely. So they are even thinking about inviting further rulemaking if they want to eliminate that part of it. Right now, this is only an executive order. It's a proclamation which the president has signed. And if they want to go into making a rule, they would actually have to go to the Congress and have the Senate and the House both approve, and then the president has to come and sign it off. So that's going to take some time. But what worries me is if they actually get into digging into all that and try to eliminate the AC-21, it's going to be a huge blow to the entire H-1B community and to the fraternity, because that takes away, and after 6 years, people may have to return back. They will not be able to stay here. And I hope and pray to God that doesn't happen, but we have to wait and see what the future holds for all of us. I frequently get questions. I've done probably about 6 or 7 seminars about this executive order that the president signed. Are F1 students impacted by this? Absolutely not. Right now, this executive order does not impact students, whether you're coming on a brand new H1 starting August, September of this year, or you're just gone home for a vacation because of summer and you need a stamping and you need to come back, you're not going to be affected. Or if PT, or if you're on a STEM OPT, you've taken a vacation and you're coming back, this is still not have a stamping, a foil stamp in their passport before June 24, 2020, whether they are brand new H1s or people who've been on H1 have to return back. And the same applies to the H4, who are the dependent spouses who've possibly gone on a vacation. And if they didn't get a stamping, now they are restricted by that. The same applies to L1s and L2s equally. So those are disturbing and frustrating question. For example, if you have an H1B or an L1 visa holder who's currently in the United States, but then his wife and children have gone to India on a vacation for a wedding, or they've gone to take care of the grandfather who's not keeping good health, and they don't have a stamp. So they are now cut off from coming back, and the families are kind of separated. And sometimes they have children who are born here, United States citizens, but even that citizen child is unable to come back because the child is too young. And due to COVID, the parents are definitely not going to put them on a flight and send them alone. So, there is this separation of the families that is going to occur, where you have an L1A here or an L1B here, H1B here, the wife and children, and it could be vice versa. Maybe the wife is here and the husband and children have gone, and then they cannot come back. In this case, you might say, what do they do? As an attorney, what I'm telling them is to still reach out to the consulate and see if they want to go ahead and schedule an interview, whether they get the visa or not. In the meantime, as attorneys, we are trying to reach out both to the congressmen, to senators, to the ombudsman's office to see if they would at least make an exception to this group of people who had traveled out on a vacation, not knowing that this executive order is going to pass, and to allow the unity of the family so that they can come back and be united with their families. So this is something we are advising people to do, is to go ahead, because right now the consulates are shut in India, and we don't anticipate interviews to be given until possibly October or November. But having said that, I would still want them to go ahead and try to see if they can schedule appointments. And in the meantime, we are trying to reach out to the ombudsman's office, to the senators, congressmen, and if necessary, also file a lawsuit against the government to remove the restriction, at least for that group of people who have involuntarily been separated from their families. So that is something I wanted to bring about. And as I mentioned, Anil Garu, right in the beginning, that there was a previous executive order wherein the president had restricted some of the permanent residents and also US citizens parents from coming into the United States. He's not restricted US citizen spouses or children under 21, but if there are parents or brothers and sisters, those categories have been extended until December 31st. 2020. So it's unfortunate. Some people want to see their parents coming here, but because of this executive order, which is extended, this restriction is also applying to the parents of US citizens. I also wanted to talk about briefly about layoffs who are not only facing COVID issues, but because of oil and gas prices, a lot of people have lost jobs, whether be it an Exxon, be it a Halliburton. Gas companies have laid off lots and lots of H1s, L1s, and these people could not even travel back to India because of COVID. మీకు అందరికీ తెలిసిన విషయమే. ఇప్పటి వరకు we don't have unrestricted flights. We have certain repatriations that's happening through Vande Bharat, but it's still a lot of restrictions for people to go back with their families. So they have only a 60-day window, and once they get laid off, they have 60-day window either to find a job or to go back or to jump into another visa category. So my advice to people is, if you cannot go back, if you cannot find an employer, please don't go out of status thinking that the government is going to be considerate because of COVID. If you have overstayed, they're not going to be considerate. So somebody has to convert their status. I would highly recommend them converting it either to a tourist visa or to a student visa, depending on what they qualify for. So చాలా మంది వాట్సాప్ గ్రూప్స్ లో మార్చ్ నుంచి రాస్తున్నారండి, ది 60 days has been extended to 120 days అని, కొంతమంది ఏమో 180 days అని, but that is not true. This news is a fake news. Once you lose a job, the last paycheck that you get counts 60 days from that day, not your severance, but your paycheck 60 days from that day. Whether it's an H1 or an L1, the rule is the same. There is no difference on that. So this is something I just briefly wanted to touch, and I'll now allow you to, bring up any questions, and I'll be glad to answer anything.
That was so nice, Andy. So it's a lot of information. I hope whoever is watching, that's definitely useful information. Yeah, we'll take the questions, and the people who are watching, you guys can post your questions either in YouTube or in Facebook, so that I'm going to read out those questions. So right now, I'm taking one question from Mr. Kiran Kumar.
Uh-huh.
When my perm is under process, my H1, given the flight restrictions and have US citizen. So now I have approved I-140. Can I file again COS for H1 without getting consular approval, given these valid reasons why we couldn't depart country?
It's a very, very good question. I'm glad somebody asked that question. Mr. Kiran, first of all, I do need to know, did you have any H-1B period left in your 6 years, or did you not keep any H-1B period and you jumped in the very last day? The reason I say that, and I'll give you both scenarios because he cannot respond to me right away. Let's say you completed your entire 6 years, you are not left with even one single day, then you're going to have a problem to do a change of status now because you don't have any H-1B period left. Then they'll ask you to go back and stay out of the country for 1 year before you can come back on an H-1B, because you haven't left any H-1B period. But generally, this is what I'll recommend to my clients. If you're coming to the end of the 6th year and your perm is pending, you haven't had it approved for whatever reasons, you are right now because of COVID, you couldn't go back. Even in non-COVID situations, we tell people to keep at least a month or a month and a half of their H-1B period left out and jump into a B2 or an F1 or whatever. And when they get their perm and I-140 approved, they have that 1 month period so they can actually jump back. Plus, they can ask for the extension because of the I-140 being approved. So since I don't know what the situation for Kiran is, I would suggest he can reach out to me individually. Anil Garu, I'll give you my email address at the end of it, and people can definitely reach out to me individually.
So Kiran Garu, so if you are hearing this, so మీరు end of this session మేము email ID ఇస్తాము, మీరు ఒకసారి ఉమా గారిని కాంటాక్ట్ కండి. సో బట్ రాసిన ప్రకారం అయితే అతని H1 6-year పీరియడ్ కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయింది. దట్స్ వాట్ హీ రోట్.
ఓకే.
అండ్ అతను అనేది ఏంటంటే given the flight
grace period that they give because of COVID also. 6 years is 6 years.
He has kids who are US citizens.
Correct.
Doesn't have any chance.
Still doesn't matter. Right.
Have valid I-94 now.
That's fine. Right now, you have that 10 days. So I'm assuming now the I-94 not being valid is a total different can of worms for me. I'll have to again individually talk to him to find out that. But assuming that you have that 10 days, that is wonderful. With that 10 days, you can still jump back. With your B2, you can do a change of status without having to go for a consular processing. And if you do go for a consular processing, this ban will apply to you. You may not be able to come back unless you have a previously valid stamping in the passport.
All right. I think pretty much there's only one question I'm seeing right now in the YouTube. So, but we do have a lot of listeners. But I don't see any questions.
Well, I had a few people who sent me emails before this meeting, Andy, and I'll read out, if you don't mind, their questions. One of the questions again was, I'm up here on an H-1B. I'm just reading it out. I'm on an H-1B here in the US, and my wife and children have traveled to India. Do you think they will have any problems coming back to the US? They left in February and they got stuck because of COVID. There are no flights for them to come back. Can they come back? Again, I don't know whether your wife has an H-4 stamping prior to June 24th, 2020. And if she has, along with the children. I'm not sure if the children are US citizens or H4 dependents. If they have a stamping prior to June 24th, 2020, they can absolutely come back. There should not be a restriction.
All right. So now I got another question over here. Is it
Sure.
possible to expedite tourist visa or to know the status? This question is from Rajesh Sundaram.
Rajesh, there is no expedited processing for a B2. A B2 is done at a US consulate by filling an application called the DS-160. And whenever they get the appointment based on the availability is when they can go for the interview. Now, if they are coming on any kind of medical emergency, or it's also called as a humanitarian parole, like for example, if unfortunately, if any family member here died due to COVID or is extremely sick in a hospital due to COVID, and this family member has to come here to make some important medical decisions, then the only consulate that is taking emails right now for emergencies is the Chennai consulate. Do send them an email, let them know the emergency with all the documentation, and they can either issue a tourist visa, or it's also called as a humanitarian parole, where they will allow that individual to travel to the United States. Other than that, there is generally not any exceptions to expedite it. And there's also something called as a medical visa. If somebody is coming again on a medical visa, which is a B1 visa, not a B2, they again have to show what is the medical emergency. They're coming on a B1, if they're coming for a surgery, which cannot be done in India. And if that surgery is not done, this individual may not survive. You've got to give all the documentation, plus also the financial documents, how you are going to support this individual's surgery, because right now, since February, we have the public charge rule that has come into play. So every tourist who comes in also has to prove that they will not become a public charge. So you've got to prove all those documents.
So in addition, he's right now giving, like, he applied for the change of status for tourist visa as my H1B grace period was over. So that's the reason.
I don't know what again he means by H1B grace period. Now, you said you had 6 years, you were almost completing the 6 years.
This is different guy.
Oh, this is a different guy. I'm sorry, I thought it was Kiran again.
No, the question was, the original question was, is it possible to expedite tourist visa? So it's a
The
follow-up.
answer is yeah. And the follow-up is, sorry, go ahead.
The follow-up he's saying is, I applied for change of status for tourist visa as my H1B grace period was over.
Right.
And do I have to wait until for my tourist visa prior to applying for H1B visa?
You get a 6 months period of the tourist visa from the date you've asked for it. Now, if your 6 months are expiring, then you will be considered out of status. Now, before the 6 months expires, if you convert it back to an H1, pretty much you're in a valid status, because when a B2 is filed, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes 8 months for them to adjudicate it. And now, under the COVID conditions, officers are working at the service centers. However, there is considerable delay. So you may not even get an extension approved before the 6 months. So if you want to change the status, you need to provide them the receipt notice for your B2, and then convert your status from a B2 to an H1.
Okay. And the next question, Namaskara Umagaru. If we have GCEAD and H1 is expiring in 2 months, do you advise to apply for H1 extension or safe to be on GCEAD?
I, as a practice, I've always told people to go ahead and get your H1B extended, because by law, you're supposed to maintain a visa status till you get your green card. A lot of people mistake the EAD as a visa, and EAD is not a visa status. In fact, when people get your I-797 approval notice, that little paper, the I-797, it clearly states on the EAD approval that this is not a visa status. So having said that, some officers will believe that you've not maintained your status, even though you have an EAD and you can work on the EAD. So my advice is, if you can, please go ahead. And if your employer is willing to file for the extension, I would definitely go ahead and do that. Given the conditions, Anil Garu, I would tell everybody not to take a chance, because we don't know. Today is one rule, tomorrow is another rule, and if they come and put that rule in the future, and then you've had a chance now to file the extension, but you chose not to do it, then you would be in the category where they feel that you cannot get your green card.
Okay. All right. And then the next one, are TN visa holders affected? Is it safe to travel to Canada?
The executive order does not ban or restrict TN visa holders. TNs are coming from Canada or Mexico due to NAFTA, so you don't have a restriction or ban. However, most people know that the Canadian and Mexican US borders are shut, and they are saying that they would allow only essential workers to travel from Canada to the United States. Now, of course, for getting a TN, you can go to the border and get it. Now, I'll be very, very careful. If you don't have to go, I wouldn't go, but you have to go, you do, and take a letter from your employer that your job is considered essential, and the importance of your work, why they need you, what can happen without your being there, what are the losses your employer can face financially. These are some of the documents I would recommend you to highly take it with you.
Thank you, Magaru. And next question we have is, my employer applied for H-1B in March. I got pre-approved and filed for October. Due to COVID, she won't be able to sustain me. Would it be possible to start job for a day and go on maternity leave without pay?
The question is very confusing and convoluted for me.
She applied H-1B and it got approved. It got pre-approved, but what happened?
There's no such thing as pre-approved. So that's what I'm wondering what that means by pre-approved. Is she a CAP H-1B? Is she saying that her H-1B got picked in the lottery and it's already approved, and the validity date is from 10/1/2020? If she's on an OPT and she's unable to work for that employer, she can definitely take maternity leave. Whether it is paid leave or unpaid leave, that is something she'll have to justify later. But yeah, she doesn't have to work for the H-1B employer because the approval says 10/1/2020. So she'll start working for that employer from 10/1/2020. But I don't know if...
I think she already had a H1 and she maybe lost her job, and maybe see the second follow-up question she's saying, could you kindly guide me if I can be on maternity leave without pay on H1B until I find another employer to get a transfer? I am a dentist. This is a private practice situation.
You cannot be indefinitely on a maternity leave, or whatever the state grants, that's all you're entitled to. But if you got laid off from a job from employer A and you're now looking to go to employer B, you have 60 days time to find an employer. And let's say within that 60 days you cannot find an employer, my advice will be to jump into a B2, and whenever you find a dentistry clinic who's willing to sponsor you to come back onto your H1, you can come back. And you're not subject to the cap, so you don't have to wait till April of next year to file it. Anytime you find a new employer, you can jump back to the H1.
She's once again saying the same thing. This year March, pre-approved I'm talking about. I didn't heard what is this.
I don't understand what is pre-approved, ma'am. I would sincerely suggest send me an email. I'll give my email out to you at the end of this Q&A session.
All right. And another guy is saying, my situation is same as Kiran, that B1, B2 is under process and I can file for H1 again, and I have a job. Again, I have a job in hand. So they transfer to B1, B2, but it's not approved and they want to get back to H1. Is it
You
possible?
can always do that. You can provide the copy of the receipt to your employer to show that you're pending a B2, and they can do a change of status from your B2 to an H1.
All right. I think pretty much that's all the questions we have. So still, if you guys have any questions, please put over here. Definitely, we are going to answer. And either way, the time is also done. So do you want to make any closing comments, Uma garu?
Sure, Andy. One of the things that I would like to request ATA, as one of the leading Telugu organizations in this country, with a lot of very high-profile people working as trustees and board members and members, if we can all come together and send a letter to some of the senators, to the president, or to the ombudsman's office, particularly for those women or those spouses who have been involuntarily held back in India because they could not come back due to COVID and they couldn't get a stamping and they couldn't return back or join their spouses here in the United States. I feel that there is definitely a need for the president who can alter or amend this executive order and allow at least that group of people, whether they are H4s or L2s, to come back into the United States. So as an esteemed organization, I would request you all to do that. And I'll be glad to draft any letters or petitions so that we can send this to various officials, be it congressmen, senators, ombudsmen, the vice president, the president himself. Nothing wrong with it. We are requesting him. And I'm pretty sure, as per the executive order, he said that they're going to revisit in 30 days or 60 days intervals to look into making any amendments to this. And this might be a good amendment they can make, at least a reasonable amendment.
So definitely our board of trustees are watching this and definitely will discuss and we'll definitely talk about this. And before we close, there is a last question we got it. Another one.
Sure, Andy.
Uma garu, you mentioned about AC21 during your discussion. Can you please explain it in detail?
AC21 is the act that was passed during President Clinton's time, and this was back in 2000 when they passed. That was when they talked about how H1s can be portable, and also one of the rule that they passed was if a H1B employee had a perm approved and or pending for 365 days or more, they can get a 1-year extension. And if they have an I-140 approved, they can get a 3-year extension indefinitely, which is why, once the 6 years is completed, the H-1B holders are able to get the extension. Otherwise, prior to that, people had to return back and come back after a 1-year gap. But because of the AC21, they're able to remain here, getting that indefinite extensions. It also gave the flexibility of H-1B employees porting their H-1B visa from employer A to B to C to D. Sometimes people change employers, 4 employers in 1 year, 5 employers in 1 year. So there is no problem as long as you can prove that you qualify for that position and previously have maintained your H-1B status. So earlier to the AC21, we didn't have this flexibility, Andy. I've been practicing for the longest time that I know, and when 1995 to 2000, when H-1Bs were on the peak, people filed thousands and thousands of H1, and during Clinton time, even the quota was increased to 115,000 applications. So I know people in the Bay Area who all started the .com companies, filed hundreds of thousands of applications, but they didn't have the luxury of the AC21. So when people reached out to the government, that's when they looked into it, and AC21 came up. And this was the rule that was passed. Okay. And that's what they're now looking into, saying H-1Bs are benefiting getting this indefinite 3 years extensions, should we be giving them these extensions? Now because of COVID, a lot of H1s are remaining here because of the AC21. So they're looking into it. Should we continue this? Should we not continue it? And I hope to God that they will continue it.
Okay. Couple of questions more.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Do you anticipate an impact with the latest news that USCIS is furloughing their employees from August?
Well, they have threatened that they will furlough their employees if the federal government, does not give them the requested $1.3 billion for the USCIS to survive. They feel that they're short of money. Generally speaking, USCIS survives on its own income, which is the fee that they generate from all the applications that they get. So generally they don't, but they feel that their budget is somehow scrunched. They don't have enough funding, and sometime, I don't know the exact date, but I think it is August 13th or 15th, something like that. Don't quote me on the exact date, but if the government fails to provide the requested funding, they have threatened that they would be furloughing probably at least 15,000 employees. Now, if that happens, the answer to this individual's question, will there be further delays? Absolutely, there would be further delays.
Okay. And there's Rajesh Sundaran is just giving a follow-up question. Coming back from B2 to H1B, can we apply for H1B prior to the approval of tourist visa? I heard that if we do that, we might be asked to go for a consular processing.
Generally not. We've done many of these B2 to H1s, not today, during COVID. My firm has been successful where people got laid off and they were under the 60-day period. They couldn't find an employer. And after the 60 days they found, and we were still successful to do a change of status from a B2 to H1. Because an H1 can have both a non-immigrant intent and an immigrant. It's called as a dual intent you can have. A B2 is a non-immigrant intent. So we clearly show that they were intending to go back. However, in the meantime, they got this offer, which they could not refuse. Also now, due to COVID, you have a better reason to say that you don't feel safe, even if the flights have opened up, that you can safely travel back to your home country without jeopardizing your life or your family member's life. So, and right now, of course, the flights are still not open. Everybody is seeing a spike in the numbers in COVID, especially in Texas and Houston. We are seeing a huge spike. And I believe the same in Arizona, Florida, California. Many states are seeing a huge spike. So this could restrict further travel. And so this could be a valid reason for you to say also that I intended to go back, but I'm unable to go back. So due to my involuntary reasons for not going back, I should be allowed to change my status. And given the conditions, I have a gut feeling you would not have a problem to get a change of status. If you have any issues, come to me. I'll be glad to help you out.
Yeah, even I think India is also going to lock down now once again from till July 31st, the latest news from yesterday.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, locked down once again. The lockdown is back till July 31st. They applied now.
Yeah. So in that case, I don't think you will be able to go back to your home country.
Yeah. So thank you, Uma Garu, and behalf of ATA and behalf of Telugu community. So మీరు అడగగానే వచ్చేసి మీ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ షేర్ చేసుకున్నందుకు, and definitely ATA is very grateful to you for coming and participating in this event. And మిగతా వారికి మీకు ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నా కానీ ఏమున్నా కానీ you can feel free to contact Uma Garu. So Uma Garu, మీ ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి ఇస్తారా?
తప్పకుండానండి. It's uma@mantralaw.com, which is spelled mantralaw.com. That is my direct email, and anybody wants to reach out to me. I'm one of the few attorneys, or one of the attorney. I give out my cell number, and I do this particularly during COVID because of the emergency situations people are in. I don't have a problem. People can reach out to me on my cell, but the best way is to text me or send me a WhatsApp because I can't pick up all the calls. I'm in meetings or, here is my cell number too. Please reach out to me. It is 281-827-3836. Again, I'll repeat it, 281-827-3836. And if you want to go to my website, which is www.mantralaw.com. నేను అందరికీ చెప్తుంటానండి, I do the mantra. అందుకనే H1 అప్రూవ్ అవుతాను. I'm just joking.
So one of the saying is ధన్యవాదాలండి ఉమా గారు, and this is a great service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate everybody from ATA, and I'd like to extend a very special thanks to Hanmant Reddy Garu, Gopal Reddy Garu for facilitating this, and all the board members who've taken time out in a weekday evening to spend this time for the community. I'm always there if ATA needs me. Please, if there's a time when you need me to come and do a webinar, any day, I'll be glad to come and do this for the community. Why do I say that? I am a part of ATA. I've been part of ATA, and I'm very proud to say that. And I'll always be there to the members or non-members of ATA also. Doesn't matter from which part of the country they are from. First of all, we are humans, we are Indians, and we have to come together in a time like this. We've never seen anything like this in all our lives. So, it's time to come together as a community and help each other.
Yeah, definitely. As you see, ATA always steps in the, stays in the front whenever any situation comes. Doesn't matter any situation, always ATA is there as a community to the people, and especially for our Telugus and our Indians. When the situation comes, we didn't even see, whether Telugu or
absolutely, and that's why I say I'm proud of to be a part of the ATA membership, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction to be a part of this community. And again, Anil Garu, Parmesh Garu, I'm saying this to all the board members and the executive board members, trustees. Please reach out to me if there's anything at all I can do.
Sure, Andy. Thank you for also, Magaru, and it was so nice talking to you. And
the pleasure is mine.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. And anyone callers, so మీకు ఏమన్నా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నా కానీ తన ఫోన్ నెంబర్ ఇచ్చారు మీకు 281-827-3836 అండ్ మీకు ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి కూడా ఇచ్చారు. సో ఈమెయిల్ వచ్చేసి uma@mantralaw.com, mantralaw.com. So just send your questions, and definitely Uma garu will be there to help you guys to at this situation, and definitely, and don't get panic. And for any situations or any help you required, you always can reach out to ATA helpline number also is there, or you can reach out to website, or you can reach out to Facebook, or
yes, if you cannot reach out to me, please send the questions to any of the ATA board members. They can always forward it to me also. And నేను మళ్ళీ అదే చెప్తానండి, ధైర్యే సాహసే లక్ష్మి అని. మనం we should not give up hopes on anything, whether it's coming out as a COVID patient, or whether it's this unprecedented time where we are seeing so many presidential executive orders or proclamations. దీన్ని కూడా ఎదుర్కొంటాం. We'll come out. We'll just have to tide through this. And we are all there to help you all. So please don't panic. That is the first thing.
All right, Andy. So definitely we'll come back with this, for some other webinar, for some other informational sessions as and when required. And we are signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Namaste.